Today on What's That About, we are really excited to welcome LaQueen Battle. LaQueen is running for City Council and Cambridge Public School District School Committee. Welcome, LaQueen. And,
Yay!
thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, Avery.
So why don't we just get into it? Please tell us about your background and how you came to Cambridge.
Well, again, my name is LaQueen Battle. I am a graduate of Purdue University as well as the Harvard Medical School HMX program, which it pretty much gave a lot of information about COVID-19 procedures and policies. It taught a lot about pharmacology, immunology, and so I've also been a part of the Harvard community. I work for a company here in Cambridge called InstaWork, Advantage Workforce Solutions, which pretty much provided like small gigs for a lot of workers here in the Boston area to just get work during COVID, during the pandemic. And so I started with InstaWork. I worked at Harvard as a medical assistant. And then I started with InstaWork, and that's how I became a part of the Harvard community. And since I've been living in Cambridge, I've been involved with a lot of good organizations that help me get housing, that help me get community resources, that help me provide women's counseling, women's services. A lot of good organizations here in Cambridge. There was On the Rise here in Cambridge, which is a wonderful organization to help women who are transitional. Also, the Cambridge Women's Center, they were right down the street from Harvard University. They moved to Central Square, another good facility as well. So I've been involved in a lot of homeless shelters here in Cambridge, Green Street, the Multi-Service Center, and through those organizations, I was actually able to get approved for housing, as well as, of course, the Harvard Square Homeless Shelter. So I'm really thankful for the organizations that helped me get housing and to become a part of the Cambridge community.
Awesome. Well, it sounds like you've really gotten involved in a relatively short amount of time in Cambridge. So
Yeah.
why don't you tell us a bit more about your favorite part of living here and if you have any favorite places to visit or neighborhoods?
Well, before I was here in Cambridge, I used to live in like a big like a boarding house. I lived in different places, boarding houses on people's couches. I lived in Quincy. I lived in, you know, Worcester. I lived in different facilities in the VA, and I was actually really nice to come here to Cambridge and be part of On the Rise. And so On the Rise is a adult day center for women and binary individuals. And so just going to On the Rise, they provided me with like just pretty much basic essentials. I mean, just basic essentials. You'd be surprised what homeless individuals need, like a shower, free clothing, toiletries, even perfume, just basic essentials to help somebody who's transitional. And, I was going back and forth between Quincy, living in a boarding house with other people, but just being around women going through the same situation that I was going through. And even being in shelters between Boston and Quincy and even Worcester and all that stuff. Facilities like On the Rise and, going there and just be around those same women who was going through the same situation as I was, really helped me out. As well as, of course, being a part of Harvard University and working at Harvard, seeing Harvard through the back end, seeing how people going to the different facilities, working at Harvard University, and knowing how the educational system works. I've met all three presidents at Harvard. I've met Dr. Larry Burkrell. I've had the opportunity to attend the inauguration of Claudine Gay, and I've met the current president at Harvard. And being able to know a little bit how the administration works in an Ivy League institution, as well as, of course, myself graduating from a public institution, I'm learning a little bit how the system works on the back end as well as the front end. So I every day is a new day, it's a new challenge, but I'm thankful for every single opportunity that I have, especially being in Cambridge, or Boston, or just traveling, which I do because I'm a traveling medical assistant, traveling CNA. So that's also what I do too as well.
Wow, so you're very busy and yeah, I can see the service coming through for you. So maybe you can tell us a bit more about why, I mean, it sounds like there are many motivations, but why are you running for city council and school committee and what would be your kind of priority issue or signature issue?
Well, I'm running because there have been a lot of changes made in this community. In a lot of the communities that I've lived in Southside Chicago, where I felt like, just going every day to work, having a 9 to 5 job was just barely making ends meet. But actually being involved in, my local neighbors, getting to know people, figuring out their needs when, knowing what was going on in the system. I lived in Southside Chicago when Black Lives Matter started. I had an opportunity in Chicago to meet Father Michael Pfleger, who's really big in Black Lives Matter all across the United States. I've also lived in New York City and Albany, where I met a lot of great congresswomen and administrators in Albany as well. So I still want to be involved in the community. I want to help people. At the same time, though, all that activism that I did during COVID, with Black Lives Matter, I'm currently involved with an organization here right now. It's called the Boston Mayday Coalition, and they are an independent organization, but they support initiatives to help people who are in need with immigration reform, with just a lot of migrant situations, as well as, of course, I was involved during COVID with an organization called Mass Action Police Brutality. And so I got to go plenty of times to the National Mothers March in Washington, D.C. and see, and I got to see the Black Lives Matter mural in Minneapolis, Minnesota. So I still have a lot to learn through COVID and through all those marches and those protests and through, fighting for, I can't breathe, everything that even the Rodney King riots in the 1990s in LA. I traveled to LA during the wildfires in January, this past January. So working for a community is good, but when it comes on a personal level, and right now I'm kind of going through a lot of personal situations too. And so that's why I'm running, because it's affecting my community as well as affecting me on a personal level too.
Right, right. So it sounds like racial justice, social justice, human rights, serving people's basic needs. I'm hearing all that from you for sure. Um, so kind of transitioning to some of the hot button issues that kind of always get talked about in Cambridge. We've got cycling safety, right? What are your thoughts on the cycling safety ordinance?
Well, I've been talking with the Cambridge Bicycle Committee. There's a couple committees out there that are doing a lot for the city. Um, right now, I've been talking with them just this week. Memorial Drive is a really big issue that's affecting a lot of cyclists, as well as people coming into the borders between Boston and Cambridge, as well as, of course, um, Inman Square also has a lot of issues with cycling too. The back and forth, the byways between, having families on strollers and families with preschoolers walking down the street on Inman Square, as well as, of course, my community. I live in Lechmere, and Lechmere in East Cambridge is right there smack in between the border of 5 cities. So I live in Lechmere, and it's right between Boston, Cambridge, Somerville, Medford, and Everett. And so you have people from Cambridge Crossing walking across the street coming into Cambridge, and then you have strollers and kids coming from Boston trying to get to CPSD schools, walking across the street. If they can't catch the bus, then they're going to walk across the street, in that busy 4-6 byway intersection that goes between Lechmere into TD Garden. Mm-hmm. And so I personally know one of the the department heads of the Cambridge Bicycle Committee, and I was talking with them about it today. And it's great to have, crossing guards there. It's great to have, state police there. But we really got to get the community involved in a lot of things that are happening. There have been fatalities that have occurred because of these busy intersections, as well as people who do not abide by the speed limit. And you have right now, the school semester is about to start in less than 2 weeks. On top of that, preschoolers and families are also going to be involved. As well as, of course, there's another issue with the bicycle ordinance. I mean, the bicycle ordinance, of course, is homeowners, they want their parking. They want their parking. And so that's another issue when you have people in the suburbs in Cambridge, in the middle between the Cambridge center area, where homeowners, they need their parking, but they also have to rely on bicyclists who majority of them are, commuters, as well as, of course, college students. And so they rely on their bicycles, they rely on their scooters, but people also need room for parking. And so there's a lot of issues that the city and, of course, these communities have to deal with, regulating and finding a balance in between. So that is something that has to be discussed. These plans have been in motion for 6, 7 years, and it's always going to be on the debate table between who gets a parking permit, who gets parking versus how many bike lanes do we install. As I was talking with the person today, and he was trying to say, we've got to find a balance somehow in between that.
Do you think Vision Zero, which is the goal of no traffic fatalities, is a possibility in Cambridge?
Well, I mean, a 6, 7 year plan is the population grows every single year within the city boundaries of Cambridge. So of course, when you have a city population of 1 to 3 million people of Boston going into a very small suburb, I mean, a very small community like Cambridge, which is, I'm not even going to say half of Boston. I'm not even going to say that, but a smaller population like Cambridge or like Somerville, we have to really figure out a balance between, is there going to be less fatalities, or are we going to figure out how to bring in more police troopers, more people to protect the laneway, more crossing guards, more pedestrian crossways. What are we going to do to find balance in between that?
Okay. And you mentioned living near Leechmere. I've lived there myself, so I'm familiar with the East Cambridge and that neighborhood. So it sounds like you likely commute through Leechmere often. And so how do you, if you're getting around the city or need to go somewhere, how do you chiefly commute? And what would you change about that commute if you could make any changes?
Well, just because I'm in Leechmere, it doesn't mean anything. Because my Uber prices in Leechmere are the same as if I was like, in Central Square or in Harvard. I'm sure like Harvard Square, Uber prices are cheaper than Leechmere prices because Harvard Square is like the center of everything. Our Kenmore Square is the center of everything. Our MIT is the center of everything. I'm in Leechmere. I'm on way East Cambridge. So all these taxi drivers are coming, they're going to Harvard Square because that's where the money's at. And I'm here on the other boundary of the city. And so of course my Uber price is gonna be triple 30 times, you know what I'm saying? So like
Sure.
I had a job, as a CNA, and I had to get to work from Leechmere to East Boston. Do you know what I'm saying? Or I had to get from Leechmere to Harvard Square. So to work at Harvard. So from Leechmere to Harvard University, my Uber prices could go as much as $25, $30. Do you know what I'm saying? Or from Leechmere to East Boston, it would go from $30 to $40 sometimes. So I really had to evaluate, like where I find the balance. And of course, there's housing all over the city. There's people in different condos all over the city. and they commute. The way they commute is either by walking or by waiting for the bus or being in a very centralized area, a centralized zone of the city. There's people in Inman Square. Inman Square is a very centralized area of the city. I mean, you can just either take a bus to Leachmere or you can go to Central Square and take the red line. I'm in Leachmere, and so I can only take the green line to get to downtown Boston. I can't take the green line to get to Central Square. I can't take the green line to get to the red line. I either have to take the 69 bus at Leachmere and catch it all the way to Harvard Square to catch the red line, or I have to take the green line to Park Street and take Park Street to the red line.
Mhm.
So there's a little bit of inconveniences between the two, but Leachmere, the Green Line is still a very, very affordable place to get to. It's very affordable. It's centralized. There's grocery stores here. There's a community here. East Cambridge is great. There's always good food to eat. CVS is right around the corner. So I'm very, very happy to be in this community.
Awesome. Yeah. Shout out to East Cambridge.
Yeah.
Um, so I want to talk a bit about housing. Obviously, housing is a very fraught issue in Cambridge, as it is around the state. Prices to rent or buy are at or near the most expensive in the country. And lately, the council has passed a lot of housing measures to address affordable housing. We have citywide upzoning and affordable housing overlay. They removed parking minimums and allowed ADUs. So do you approve of all these changes, and what else would you like to see done to housing laws, if anything?
Well, I do. I'm really thankful that the city of Cambridge is actually doing a lot of changes. They're doing a lot of zoning ordinances. In fact, next week, I think on August the 21st or August the 23rd, I'm not sure, but the city is also going to be doing another zoning committee meeting too. So there's there are going to be a lot of changes made to Cambridge in the next couple months because it's a very, very, very great establishment, a great community city to live in, a family city to live in. And of course, Boston prices compared to Dorchester prices or Worcester prices or even, Somerville, Everett, Medford prices, Cambridge has one of the highest retail prices. I mean, for a studio apartment in Cambridge, I'm sure it could go anywhere from 1,800 to 2,000 to 2,500 just to rent a studio apartment. And so I'm very thankful for affordable housing. I'm a CHA resident. I'm very thankful for that. And there's a lot of good programs out there, a lot of good community nonprofit organizations out there that I've had the opportunity to know that have helped people as well as myself, that help them be able to afford to get qualified for affordable housing. It's now affordable housing does not necessarily mean rent control. There's a difference. There's a difference between rent control versus affordable housing. Affordable housing goes by 30% of that person's income. That means if that person's income goes up, their rent changes. If that person's income goes down, their rent changes. If they lose their job or if their family situation or if there's an emergency, their rent changes. But if it's rent control, that rent stays the same. That means if there's an emergency, that rent is fixed and there can be no changes. So there have been a lot of people, a lot of advocates in the state of Massachusetts that are right now want rent control, but at the cost of affordable housing or at the cost of a fixed income for people. So I have lived when I was in Southside Chicago, I lived in rent control, but it was on the very far side, at the very end, far side of the Southside Chicago. So I was able to afford a one bedroom apartment, but it was fixed income at a very very far boonies in the back of Southside Chicago. When I was living in New York, in upstate New York, I was living in shelters. So I didn't have the opportunity to get qualified for affordable housing because the opportunity was not available to me yet, or my number didn't come up on the list. Now, when I moved here to Massachusetts, I got involved on the CHAPA website the Massachusetts state website for housing, I filled out an application with a lot of nonprofit organizations, and I checked off every single city that I was interested in getting housing, and I continued to receive the letters in the mail. And from there, I went on interviews. And there I was approved for housing. And so, it just really depends on the situation of that person. Um, but again, there is a difference between rent control versus affordable housing. And I know a lot of advocates, they do want more affordable housing in cities like Cambridge. And I'm really thankful for that. We do need it more here, especially now that the goal of any advocate for housing, anybody, the goal of any organization, any community should be um, getting home ownership. And so I think that's the main priority of the city of Cambridge, or any city in particular, should be raising the rates of home ownership for families at all. So, but again, we also want to increase affordable housing for families as well.
Sure. And can you speak at all to your experience in obtaining affordable housing in Cambridge? Was that overall a good experience or?
It was hard. I mean, it was really hard.
Mhm.
I'm not gonna lie, it was hard. I was back and forth between shelters. I was back and forth between people's houses. I mean, my stuff was in storage. I've been in so many different storage facilities. I've slept on so many people's couches, so many people's floors. I'm grateful that I had a friend in Watertown who let me stay with him for a couple months. I'm grateful for a partner that I had in Boston. He let me stay here for a little bit. Really helped me out. But
Mhm.
so I'm grateful for the people that came into my life at a particular time. But again, it's not an easy road,
Mhm.
and I know housing is different for individuals, persons versus homeless persons versus families. When you have homeless families, they have more of an uphill to climb, as well as homeless individuals. I'm a homeless individual here in Massachusetts, no car, working in the gig economy, and then
Mhm.
on top of that, um, I'm always carrying around suitcases everywhere I go. Always carrying around suitcases everywhere I go, taking them to these day centers, taking them to these shelters. And a lot of these shelters, they want to accept suitcases, or you have to put everything in a locker, or, you have to sleep on the floor. And a lot of these facilities that I stayed in, they were full, or they told me they didn't have any beds available. And the only option for me was to sleep on the floor. And so I didn't mind. I didn't mind sleeping on the floor. I just pretty much wanted a roof over my head and a place to sleep. So I'm thankful for the tough times, and on top of that, during the winter months they have what's called a cold blue, and a cold blue is when um, I'm not sure if it's called a cold blue anymore. It's the emergency call where they have the homeless individuals have the opportunity to get off the streets, get a bed, available to them without any kind of hesitancy from the shelters. So it is the opportunity of the city to make a bed available to that homeless individual. And I think I'm not really, I forgot what it's called, but during the winter months, cities have the priority to take homeless individuals off the streets. And it happens in Chicago, it happens in LA. And so I had the opportunity to go to homeless shelters during the cold winter months. And that's when it gets hard for a lot of people. They don't have jobs, they're struggling, they don't have families, they're by themselves. And that's when the mental health kicks in. That's when the drug addiction kicks in, and that's when a lot of people are left stranded with nothing else to do except be arrested or end up on the streets in danger. And so during those times, I pretty much I got sick a lot. I ended up in the hospital a couple times from COVID, and after I got off from COVID, I just went back to the shelters and tried to get back together, get it back together, get more stable, get a job, and get it back together. And so I'm thankful for the opportunity of shelters like Pine Street. I'm thankful for the opportunity for shelters like, Green Street and like, the multi-service center here in Cambridge and a whole bunch of organizations. There's one off of Albany Street in the Boston Healthcare for the Homeless system. I'm also still a part of that too as well. And so I'm thankful for a lot of good organizations that were able to provide me with just a warm place to sleep, even during the cold winter months, which right now a lot of people are facing and dealing with.
Right. Well, I appreciate your kind of, honesty and candor about your experiences, right, here in Cambridge and in other cities. I think it's important to have, voices who can speak to that, right? Who can help with bringing about change and thinking of policy changes we can make. What would you do to improve the quality of life in the city overall? I think you probably have some ideas, I'm sure, but
Well, the main thing right now I'm currently working on is in East Cambridge, right down about a couple blocks from me is one of the biggest libraries. Um, the second biggest library in the city is called Volante Library. And right now it's going through major, major maintenance issues. I mean, I think it's the HVAC or the facility issues or it's water damage or I don't know if it's mold. I don't know what's going on. But my main priority is letting people know what is going on with this library system because right now, and I live about a couple blocks from Kennedy Longfellow Elementary School, and they just closed that facility down, as well as of course the library that I'm talking about, Volante Library, is right next door to King Open School, and so a lot of the students that are going to be transferred from Kennedy to Longfellow are going to go to King Open or they're going to go to other facilities. And those students that are also going to go to King Open School are going to need the services of the library, of Volante Library. And so I'm just pretty much on social media. I'm talking to the mayor's office. Today I went to the courthouse. Today I went to the administration of the library system at CPL. And I was just trying to get updates about what's going on with this library. I mean, this library has the capacity to hold up to 300 people. And right now it's completely shut down. Nobody, not even no construction workers are in this library. And so the fall semester starts in less than 2 weeks.
Mhm.
These students will not have any services available to them in East Cambridge. And so I'm pretty much putting the word out on social media about what kind of resources are available to these students come September the 2nd, come when school starts. Because of course, all that flow from Kennedy Longfellow is going to come to King Open School, is going to come right smack on Inman Square. And these students are going to have no resources to go to. So that's kind of what I'm working on right now. Yeah.
Right.
And of course, there's also some other issues in the community. A lot of the business owners are going through pandemic issues where they're losing business, but I'm also letting them know, hey, you guys should offer back to school specials. You should just offer back to school like, hey, it's LaQueen, how you doing? Do you guys have any back to school specials? And like, we don't have anything right now, but we can work with you guys. We can offer a haircut for $20. We can offer something for the kids. And a lot of the businesses are open to that. Even though the economy is bad right now, they're still open to helping out the kids. So that's really good what they're doing, what's happening right now, the small changes that are being made in East Cambridge.
Well, you kind of hit on one of my next questions there, which was about the economy. And, we have a lot of uncertainty in the economy right now. We have White House interference. We have less international students here and decreased tourism. Would you support increased taxes and fees to support some of your goals for the city? And do you think, if necessary, the budget should shrink? And if so, what would you cut to achieve that?
Well, I have been doing the city budget, the city of Cambridge budget is like that is it's like almost 300-400 pages. Do you know what I'm saying? And so one of the primary agenda points of the City of Cambridge budget is primary education, it is housing, it is homelessness, and it's of course business adventures. And so during the COVID pandemic, 2020, 2021, 2022, um, we've the city of Cambridge. I'm not talking about Boston. I'm not talking about Everett. I'm
Mhm.
not talking about Somerville. I'm directly talking about Cambridge. They lost major businesses. They lost Facebook during COVID. They lost right now, right across from Facebook headquarters. So they still have AstraZeneca is still there. They still have all these major laboratory organizations are still here in Cambridge. But of course, we need to make sure that these major firms are still there. And of course, as you know, with COVID, we lost almost 2 million people all across the United States. So with that came, raises in, increasing taxes all over for everybody around the world, around the community. So I would work on making the main priorities, of course, but working on balancing the tax budget, the tax agenda. Of course, giving incentives for these major corporations to stay in the city. We want companies like IBM to stay in the city. We want companies like AstraZeneca to stay in the city. And I know there may be some problems with political agendas of these companies. I have friends that they do not support some of the political agendas of these companies, but we still need to keep the focus. You know what I'm saying? These major corporations pour money into our city. Now I can understand that there may be some issues with, you know, companies like there was a main protest in Harvard Square against Capital One. There was a main protest against another laboratory firm here in Cambridge about how they felt, them supporting, Israel. I do understand that people also made protests against that. But here for American companies, American born, we still need to make sure to keep them in our city, to keep their business, to keep Cambridge, because Cambridge used to be the hub. It used to be the hub during the 90s and during the 2000s. It used to be the hub for everybody. It used to be in Cambridge. All these major corporations, Microsoft, Facebook, Apple, they all used to be in Cambridge, Boston area. Now they've left. And so we need to make sure we need to give tax incentives to keep the business in the city. And so I've been to a couple of conferences with these business tax executives, and I've had the opportunity to meet some of them, and they on the same page. But at the same time, giving them tax incentives, but also, you know, finding a balance in between, making less tax on American families, and finding a balance in between the two. We do need to work on finding a balance in between American families versus businesses. But still, we need to keep American businesses in America. We need to keep these businesses in order to make our economy stable, and we do not need to lose any more business. Unfortunately, a lot of these companies have moved to California, to Silicon Valley. They've moved overseas. We've had to outsource a lot of work, a lot of American jobs overseas, but we need to keep this in our economy.
Well,
So
I'd
I
say
hope that helps.
you just hit on large businesses, which, obviously are a huge contributor to Cambridge's economy. But what about, I'm thinking about all the vacant storefronts that are currently, vacant in Cambridge. Do you have any ideas for how to address those or encourage property owners to, develop these vacant storefronts or put them to use?
Well, it's really sad to see store owners. I just was talking to somebody today. She's a salon owner, and she said she had to move because they're raising her rent up so much. I live right across my community, um, in East Cambridge, which is right across the street is Somerville, Twin
Mhm.
City Plaza. You know, they've closed down three, four businesses. I mean, I'm not talking about like mom and pop stores. I'm talking about like franchise stores as well as mom and pop stores. So they're raising the rental rents so high that these store owners of over 20, 30, 40 years are not able to afford the rents. So we need to find a way to work with these real estate brokers, to work with these leasees to make sure to keep these business in the community. I have opportunity to meet a woman that used to work for a Somerville business of sophisticated fabrics, and her business has been in operation for over 40, 50 years. And it's sad to say, she's like, I can't afford to live here anymore because the rents are going up so much. And then Sally's also had to move. You know, they had a great location, but they had to move right across the street from Cambridgeshire Mall because the rental rates also went up so high. So again, you know, I would work with the landlord owner, work with the owner, you know, to try to find a balance to keep these businesses in the city, to keep them in the community. And on top of that, you know, we're losing a lot of you know, everyday businesses that no longer exist. You know, there was a thing in a news release that just came out about the last typewriter store in the United States was in Cambridge, down the street from Harvard Square, and it had a closed business because it just could not exist anymore. The store owner was getting old. His rents were going up, and so he didn't have anybody to pass down the store business to, and so we need to make incentives to keep these businesses in operation. You know, keep these family businesses in operation. Um, on a personal note for myself, my father owned a company on a home business called Pounds Electronics in Texas, and he owned it for 20, 30 years. And, you know, my brother followed in the family footsteps doing IT work. But at that time, the rental rates of his storefront business was too much. And so he couldn't afford that anymore. So, you know, it's the same thing that happens in large cities as much as here in Cambridge across the world. And we need to work on making sure there's a balance in between having, like I said, not just incentives for these large corporations, but keeping these mom and pop stores open as well.
Yeah, yeah, it's definitely a struggle. Um, and I don't think there's easy answers to any of it, but I want to be wary of time here. So is there anything else that you hoped we covered or that you'd like to touch on before the end of our interview here?
Well, of course, there's so many issues going on in a city like Cambridge.
Hmm.
Cambridge has people from all around the world. It's not just in the adult population, it's not just in the home population, but it's also in the student population too as well. And so, you know, it's a very diverse city. You have to be very careful of the that are in this city. I'm glad that a city like Boston Logan Airport, was actually able to open up, you know, the children from Gaza to come in here for emergency medical treatment. I'm very thankful that Boston Logan Airport was actually able to work with a nonprofit organization to help children from Gaza. I'm thankful that that people are always fighting for people overseas. It's a very caring city. Cambridge is a very caring city. They care about other people's needs, as well as, of course, we need to care about our own brother at the same time. So hopefully we care about so many other people's needs. We need to care about our own brother. So hopefully, there are also homeless people in Cambridge. You know, I'm very thankful, even though, you know, I've been homeless, my family's in another state. I'm actually very glad that I was actually able to meet some extended family with the same surname here in Cambridge. Pastor Jeremy and Jennifer Battle of West Avenue Baptist Church. And so I've met extended family. I've been homeless in Massachusetts for 6, 7 years. And now I'm actually able to meet some extended family. And so not many people get that same opportunity. So, we care about a lot of other people, but we need to take care of our own neighbor. Do you know what I'm saying? So hopefully, I'm learning that as well as other people. I'm learning that for myself. So, Cambridge is a very diversified city. Every single day is different. Um, and I'm learning. Every day is a learning step for me. And I apologize, I am very much involved, but I apologize, I'm so much involved in a lot of things that I'm learning. So if people just can appreciate me and to help me to understand, a little bit about their culture, because you'd be surprised, people, cultures, and age change every single day. So I'm really thankful to be involved in a city like Cambridge, and I'm really very acceptful for this. So thank you so much. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I think Cambridge's strength is its diversity, and yeah, it's a globally minded city with lots of, global influence, obviously, but it still feels like this, tight-knit community. So thank you for joining us and for your vision for Cambridge and sharing that with us. And we wish you the best in your candidacy. And again, this was LaQueen Battle joining us on What's That About? Thank you so much, LaQueen.
Yes, God bless you. Bye. Thank you.